Hey everybody, Reed here. I just wanted to make a quick video and give an update to everybody out there that is watching about what is going on with our TTC journey. So where I left off previous, I believe I talked about my 4th cycle of Clomid. However, I did do a 5th cycle of Clomid between March and April. And so that was my 5th cycle of Clomid, and I had a reproductive endocrinologist appointment on May 4th. And so my last cycle of Clomid was honestly probably the best cycle. And so even though we did not get pregnant, my luteal phase did last 12 days. Previous to that, my luteal phase had only lasted 5 to 9 days, which is not long enough to get pregnant. You need to have a longer luteal phase, and so it gives that fertilized egg time to embed into your uterus. So my 5th round of Clomid, I had a much normal luteal phase. My luteal phase was 12 days, which was very exciting. But I still did start my period, and so the 5th cycle of Clomid was not successful for us. So on May 4th, I had my first appointment with a doctor at RBA, which is Reproductive Biology Associates of Atlanta, I believe. I can't remember if the last is Associates or Atlanta, but RBA is a pretty big fertility clinic up here in my area of Atlanta, Georgia. We live in North Atlanta, but RBA has satellite offices all around Atlanta. But with everything that's going on, I had it was supposed to be a telemed visit, but for some reason our computers weren't working, and so I just talked to my doctor over the phone. The best thing is we talked on the phone, just my doctor and I, for over an hour. And so I really got to know him. He really got to know me. He got to know my background. And I will honestly say, out of all doctor's appointments I've had in my entire life, that was probably the best and most kind doctor I have visited. I did have a gastroenterologist that was very, very nice and was very similar in that way, but it just felt very comforting knowing that we have a doctor that truly cares and that is wanting to find the root of this issue for our TTC journey. So I think previous I had talked about that my OBGYN had pretty much told me, not confirmed it obviously, but had told me that she suspected that I had PCOS. So that was one of the first things I talked to the RE about. A little bit of history about me is I was a college athlete. I've always been super athletic. I was a gymnast growing up for over 12 years. So I have a lot of history of being very athletic. Because of this, my RE believes that I have something that he called hypo, but if you look that up, it's hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is pretty much just like, you're really athletic. Your BMI is probably less than it should be for you to be able to have your hormones in a normal level and to, be able to have your hormones induce ovulation, to have hormones to have a period, all of that. And so because I've been so athletic and I did lose a lot of weight when I was very sick with my liver issue. And so it was a combination of all of that he said probably is the issue. I did get tests run, blood tests right now. I'll talk about the other tests he has scheduled for the future, but I did get a bunch of blood tests done just to check everything, my thyroid, my AMH, all of that. And I should get those results back this week. And so I'll give y'all an update on those on my next video. Another thing, so my body fat is probably about 20 right now, and he says it probably needs to be about 22, 23, which means I am 115 right now, and I need to put on about 10 pounds. So I've been eating really, really good. He recommended a protein so I can make protein shakes during the day. And it is honestly one of the best proteins I've ever used. I have a lot of food allergies, so a lot of the protein powders have soy and that kind of stuff. And even when you're trying to conceive, having soy is not necessarily a good thing because it can cause, rifts within your hormones, because can be a synthetic hormone if you're ingesting too much of it. And so the protein powder he has me on is called the J-Rob Egg White Protein Powder. The way you spell that is Jayrobb, J-Rob. I've never heard of the guy, but that is the protein powder my RE suggested, and I have very, very much enjoyed it. It has not made my stomach hurt at all. And honestly, I just put it in my normal fertility shake with just the frozen fruits and juice, and it is delicious. I just got the vanilla flavor, and it made my smoothies in the morning like that much more enjoyable. So the next thing we talked about was after the hypo and where my new BMI needs to be. We went over my past blood test results. So in 2019, when I first went to my OB in the summer, because I wasn't having periods, and we really, were thinking about wanting to TTC in a few months. She did a bunch of blood tests. I went over those blood test results with him. And as it ended up, my testosterone level was very low, as well as my DHEAS. So with those two things, he really, really does not believe that I have PCOS, because if I did have PCOS, the DHEA and testosterone, which are both, DHEA helps you convert things into testosterone. So if your testosterone is high, usually your DHEA is also high, which is why if you have read It Starts With the Egg, it recommends do not take DHEA if you have PCOS or if you have high testosterone, because it can cause your testosterone to get even higher. So I just wanted to point that out. And this is something my RE suggested me take. So right now I am now on a DHEA supplement, and I'm on the specific supplement that It Starts With the Egg book recommended for me. And so I'm taking that to help raise my testosterone levels and hopefully raise that DHEA level. Everything else was very, very normal. My prolactin, my LH, my FSH, all of that was very normal. So it was not too concerning. But that was exactly a year ago, and a lot has changed then. I wasn't eating very well then. I definitely wasn't eating enough. And I would say I changed my eating habits around October of 2019. And I would say in the last month, I've done probably the best job at eating the cleanest and eating enough, because sometimes it's hard for me to fit in enough meals, but I've really been taking that time, and if I can't, trying to take something with me to keep up my caloric intake. So let me see, anything else on this page? So our plan going forward. First of all, I got the blood work done. I'm in the middle of my cycle right now. I'm on cycle day 20. I still haven't gotten a positive ovulation test. I am not sure if I will this month because my body probably won't ovulate. However, I'm going to keep taking them every day until I get that positive, just so I can see how it's going. If by the end of May I do not have a period, because the other test that he wants to run is he wants to do an ultrasound, but the same day as the ultrasound, and while they're doing the ultrasound, they're going to do a test that they call a FEMVUE, FEMVUE. So this is very, very, very similar to the HSG, except it's done with an ultrasound, with a catheter and saline. So while they're doing the ultrasound, they're going to enter a catheter, and the catheter is going to shoot saline up through my fallopian tubes. Very similar to how the HSG takes dye and it's looking on like some sort of X-ray or MRI machine, and it watches the dye shoot through. The better thing about the FemView is you can see the ovaries, the uterus, and the fallopian tubes all at the same time rather than just focusing on the fallopian tubes. And you're not being exposed to as much radiation as you are when you have the dye and the whatever tool that they use to look at the fallopian tubes and the dye. So I'm very excited about that. It seems like it's not quite as, I don't want to say quite as a big deal, but it sounds like it's going to be a little bit easier than the HSG. And I'll also get some more blood work that day. So the interesting thing about this, which I'm sure a lot of y'all have, if y'all have seen an RE or gone through any of this, they've at least done this once to you. But if I do not have a period by the end of this month, he's probably going to put me on birth control. And the birth control isn't necessarily like for my cycle or anything like that. It's just to put me in a state to where doing like the ultrasound and the FemView and the other remaining blood tests puts me where I need to be for them to see that, I guess, if that makes sense. I guess they don't want you like producing follicles and stuff when they give you the FemView. I'm not sure if they put you on birth control before an HSG. If they do, let me know. I'd love to know if that's similar as well. So he's also going to check my AMH level, which I have not had checked before. And then going forward with the what we're going to do. So he has not suggested IUI or IVF at this point. He believes that if I continue to put on some weight, to raise my BMI healthily with healthy food, whole food, organic food, grass-fed beef, all of that stuff, all the good fertility foods, that should be enough to help get my cycle going. I may need some help in that cycle, which he says that he believes that using a lower dose of Clomid, so maybe like a 50 milligram Clomid, along with using some injectable medication as well. So definitely at the end, he wants to use progesterone. I'm not sure what different drugs he would combine with the Clomid at first, but he also said that we would probably do a trigger shot and try that way. So fingers crossed that all these go to plan. Say a little prayer that I get a positive ovulation test, which would mean I get a period this month. That would be amazing. However, I did just start, new supplementations. I've started eating probably the most healthy for already a month. And if you are familiar with a lot of the fertility things, it takes about 3 to 4 months, 2 to 4 months of eating clean, taking the right, keyword here, the right supplements for your issues, for your body, all of that. What was I saying? It takes about 2 to 4 months of eating organic whole foods, doing the diet right, getting the right supplementation. Please, all supplements are not created equal. I really highly recommend the book It Starts With the Egg if you've been having fertility issues, if you've been having issues getting pregnant, if you've been having issues having a miscarriage. All of that stuff she covers. Another book I've really enjoyed is the, I think it's called The Period Manual. I've very much enjoyed that book, and it just talks about your cycle. It talks about, how to have more natural ways of birth control instead of using hormonal birth control, which I think is really great because honestly, I probably will never go back on birth control ever again because I feel like it's really messed up my body. So the last thing, it takes about 2 to 4 months for those whole foods, healthy eating, right supplements to make a difference to those follicles, because it takes about 100 days for that follicle to get right, get all the nutrients it needs, and then it will ovulate 100 days later. And so hopefully all the healthy and great eating that I've been doing will make a difference within 2 to 3 months. And we should see a big difference in my cycle. So right now it's just taking time and just doing those right things, thinking about fueling your body instead of thinking about dieting, because I know that that doesn't work for me. If I think about dieting, then I just crave all the things that I've been limiting myself. Instead, focus on adding in things that you know you need. Don't focus on eliminating things right away, because it takes time to create the habit and it takes time to get used to those different foods that you're eating. So add them into your regular routine, and even if it's just one meal a day, and you'll start to see big changes. Like, I used to drink a soda a day, and now I just don't even care anything about it. Water is the only, water and coffee, I will say. I always have a cup of coffee in the morning, but definitely water is just all I crave now. And I love that because it makes me feel so much better. I have never felt so healthy and so energized and just all of the above. I have never felt as good as I do right now. And I really, really, really hope that this year is the year for us. I pray that we don't have any other